welcome to All Today. It is just Cheston and myself, Derek, this week. So, Cheston, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad that you had to stop and tell them who you were to start, as if you're the main protagonist of this here podcast. So you'd think at this point,
You never know if someone is listening for the first time. You should
that's true.
introduce yourself.
Well,
That
I
way, there is not just two random voices that maybe sound kind of close. So,
I always, one, I don't really think our voices sound that close.
I don't either, but
But
you
two,
never
whenever
know.
I start listening to a podcast for the first time, that's what it feels like to me. Just two random voices going back and forth.
Right. It usually takes me a few episodes before I know who's
Yeah, it's
saying
usually
what.
about 10 episodes, unless it's something like, I don't think you've ever listened to any of the McElroy Brothers podcasts.
You're right.
But there's three of them and they sound identical. And I don't listen to them much, but probably 30 or 40 times over the past few years, and I will never get those voices down. It's like having twins in a classroom. It's just the worst.
The twin snakes of podcasting.
Well, except for, I mean, if you want to get into it, solid and liquid don't really look much like each other.
No, they don't.
I, in fact, the fact that they come from the same DNA strand is, you know, I think questionable. Personally, um, especially given the fact that in the Metal Gear Solid universe, like if you think back to Snake Eater, and you have like the ancestors of Snake and Otacon and all these other characters, and their ancestors look literally like them, you know, it's a little surprising that they could take someone's DNA and produce two very different looking people. Or, well, at least, yeah, because Solidus also doesn't look like.
No. And he
No,
also was elected president somehow.
yeah, that's also questionable. They
What were
really
the
should do
American
a
people thinking?
they should do a they should do a prequel on that to show how Solidus rose to power.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that would be interesting. But I wonder when the next Metal Gear game will even see us. Like,
Um, I would give it 10 years, and then maybe we'll get something akin to Crash 4, where it's like, all right, we've got this IP laying around, and enough time has passed that we've been able to patch up our relationship with Kojima. Let's try and roll this ball out one more
but
time.
will they do it like they did with Crash? Will they go back to over the top Metal Gear Solid One style Metal Gear for that?
What would that mean?
Well, that
What would that
means
mean? Like no first person view?
yeah, yeah, like PS1 Metal Gear Solid, but with good graphics.
So are you thinking like the kind of Metal Gear Solid remakes you see made in like Dreams? Is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking it would
yeah,
look like?
yeah.
Those really plasticky looking action figure characters?
Sure.
Yeah. That look like Simpsons rejects?
Weren't you shilling a Blue Point Metal Gear remake not too long ago?
I wasn't shilling it. I was telling you that I had heard, well, rather, I had read some rumors that that could be a thing that's happening. I think Metal Gear Solid Remake was the firm part. The Blue Point part was more speculative,
I
but it
see.
makes sense when you think about it. I mean, the part that doesn't make sense is that that means that somehow Konami's playing ball with Sony, which I don't know. I guess is not outside the realm of possibility because they pretty much make all their money now on legacy content. I still just can't see it yet, though.
Just have to lease out the IP. I'm sure they.
Yeah, I think I feel like they might be the kind of petty company for now, though, that would be like, yeah, we can do it, but you better not let Kojima anywhere near this.
Like Capcom and Mega Man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's our Metal Gear tangent.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Interesting way to start the show.
Well,
Um, but well, what have you been playing lately? It's been a couple weeks for you.
yeah, I've been gone for a couple weeks now. Two, exactly,
Yep.
which is a couple. Let's see. Well, last time I was here, I talked about dicey dungeons, and I have still been dicing those dungeons here and there.
Yeah.
Not so much this past week. I just didn't play in the mornings like I was doing for a while. I've had 10 total clears across the different classes, and I've unlocked the secret character, and I've started into the versions of the campaign that put fun twists on the basic mechanics. So I guess I'm past what I would call the introductory phase and into the more meaty part of the game, and it's still pretty great. I think it's something I'll probably touch in on here and there throughout the year. Maybe not
Cool.
play as hot and heavy, but it is a pretty good pick up and play run game, especially since it's turn based. So it's not like my twitch-based reflexes are going to lose their luster over time. I mean, I can still turn-base my way around things
Right.
after a week or two away. So that's one thing. The real major thing that I just suddenly started playing unexpectedly again is Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
I was watching some of the 3D World trailer, and I started to think as I watched that, I never did finish Galaxy when I started it again when the collection came out. I finished 64, I started Galaxy. I think playing them so close together, I was kind of just not in the mood for another one just yet.
Right.
And so I came back, and I was not very far in when I had stopped before. So I when I started, I had like 10 stars, and I was still just not totally feeling it. And then I think about 20 stars deep, all of a sudden a switch flipped, and it was like I was back in 2007. And
Yeah.
I was thinking the same things about this game that I thought back then, which are that it's, I mean, pretty impeccable from top to bottom, I think, as a game. I think in a modern sense, it's crazy to me how well it holds up. Visually, I think it actually does look pretty good for a game from 2007.
It almost looks like a new Mario, but
Right, yeah, and it's not that
less
like that's
detailed and stuff,
yeah,
but
it's
still.
less detailed. Like I'm sure someone who's an aspiring Digital Foundry editor might tell us about the texture quality and you know mesh lighting,
That sort of thing. Yeah.
ambient occlusion, or something like that. But I'm not that person, and I played and I go, wow, this looks really good.
Yeah.
Looks good. Looks good on the TV. Looks good on the Switch Lite. Doesn't matter where I play it. Looks great. Music is very, very high quality.
It is a top tier Mario soundtrack.
And there's just something to be said for when you're in some of those stages and you get into a rhythm and the music kicks into high gear and you're soaring between the little planets and you're picking up the little star bits as you go and then it just all I described it to you in a text as like every endorphin in your body going off at once,
All your
or even like,
senses.
yeah, or that. Have you ever done that exercise where you like tense up your entire body, and then you just let go suddenly, and it
Yeah.
feels really good?
Yeah.
It's like that, but
Oh,
it's
I
like that
see.
over and over and over and over and over again, and since that clicked, I really haven't been able to stop. Like it's been the main thing I've been playing for the past week or so, and I am 80 stars deep. I'm gonna go for 100%.
Are you
I
gonna go for true 100%? Play as Luigi, right? Run it
I
back.
think I think not right now. I think maybe in a year
Yeah, that's where
I
I'm at
might get
too.
the hunger for it and be like, oh, I'll go back and play that again as Luigi. And then what do you unlock like a special
You
hard
unlock a
world?
special hard level.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
happens in Galaxy 2 as well.
yeah. Well, long story short, I think this maybe opens the door to us revisiting our Mario list because you know, I'm not saying number one.
Nope.
For reference, we ranked Mario 64 number 1, Mario World 2, and Galaxy 3. I think there's a discussion to be had for number 2 at the very least.
And I would not have it.
Okay, well, I just think I think it's a little bit better than World. A little
think,
more creative, a little more interesting. The
think
secrets,
Galaxy's
I
too
think, are a little more
easy.
fun. Galaxy is easy, but so is Super Mario World.
There are
Let's be
hard
fair.
levels.
And
There are a lot more hard
so is
levels in
there
Mario
are hard
World.
levels in Galaxy.
No,
Oh,
there's not.
there absolutely are some. I mean, it's not like you're gonna spend like 30 minutes on one stage, but there are certainly some levels that you're gonna have to go revisit a few times and be creative about it.
There was
It's
not.
definitely not hard, and I think everyone likes Mario for different reasons, and I can understand why you would look at Galaxy and say, "Oh, it's too easy." But I do think there's a certain amount of creative energy in that game that is not met by really any other Mario
Oh, I
or any other
agree.
game that I can
It's
think of.
it's fantastic in a lot of ways. It's just I hold Mario in high regards, and one of the
I
things
know.
I like about a good Mario game is that it can be challenging at times.
I don't
And
know which Mario 64 stage is difficult. I'd be curious
well,
to know which
Rainbow
one you're.
Ride is tough.
Not really.
Well, all like if you don't know
Ah,
if you haven't played the
okay.
game straight
Rainbow
up,
Ride is definitely the most challenging level, but it's
TikTok Clock is kind of tough.
eh. Yeah, I mean those are to me, and I like those levels quite a bit. So
Me too.
I don't know. I didn't say number 1 though. I said number 2. So maybe at some point. I know this year we've got the Zelda list slated for at some point, but maybe we'll just have to throw a little addendum in
Well, it just feels
sometime.
like people complained about Sunshine being hard, so they're like, all right, we're going to go in the complete opposite direction. We're going to overcompensate.
Well, if you think about it, though, it's almost like the ultimate realization of what Sunshine started, or actually 64 kind of started. Because around the 64, 16-bit, 8-bit Nintendo, they didn't care. If you didn't finish their game, that's tough. That's on
Right.
you. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. And then the 64 came around and they started to relax that a little bit. Like, I think Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask are not necessarily easy, but if you hang in there, you're probably going to finish those games.
Yeah.
And Mario 64, kind of the same way. I mean, it does ask a lot of you in some places, but for the most part, if you hang with it, you will finish that game. Sunshine had its hard moments, but some of those you can get around and avoid, and you don't have to do the blue coins. I think you do have to do some of the pachinko stuff, which I know
Yeah, you
is
do not.
you don't. Okay, well, so some of that challenge was avoidable, but as a kid, I remember Sunshine being the first Mario that I finished because
Yeah.
it wasn't especially hard. And then Galaxy was like their ultimate realization. Like this was a Mario game that, I mean, for sure, if you sat down with that game, you should finish it.
You
It's
should.
you only have to get only half the stars to get to the end, and most of the stars you can get without doing like if you don't do any of the secret stars or any of the comets, those stars are pretty easy to get.
Yeah.
So I do understand where you're coming from with difficulty, but I think it's an amazing game.
Well, that's why I
And
think Galaxy 2 is the superior option because there are a couple of challenging levels in
well,
that.
that's not what you fought for on our list.
Because I hadn't played Galaxy in a long time, and I remember your argument for it made sense. And then when I played it again, I realized these games are basically the same,
They're
except
not.
Galaxy 2 is a little harder.
Galaxy 2's worlds are a little more streamlined, a little more
No, that's
straightforward.
impossible because Galaxy 1's levels are
No,
completely
not
straightforward.
necessarily. No, there's all the secrets and stuff. Those are lots of fun.
And also, Galaxy 2 has green stars, which are just hidden in levels.
Well, Galaxy 1 has green stars.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
They're
Because
secret stars.
they're, yes, but like, they're the 120 secret stars in Galaxy 2. And you don't
Yeah.
have to repeat you don't have to repeat the game to get
Well,
everything.
if only Nintendo gave me some way to replay
Yeah, I
Galaxy.
know. If only. If
And
only.
then I could have an actual substantial debate about this instead of just going nope
Nope.
because of what I remember from 2011 when I played it.
Maybe in March when they take off 3D All Stars collection, they'll make Mario Gems collection and
Yeah.
Galaxy
What? God,
2,
what would be in there?
Mario
Luigi's Mansion.
Strikers, Luigi's Mansion, and
Trying to think of the
maybe
Mario
Hotel
games they don't
Mario.
value as much. The Gems collection is hilarious. That's a great callback.
Yeah, it would be like the Mario Lands on the Game Boy, that sort of thing.
Long before Mega Man X Collection 2 was stinking up the joint, Sonic Gems Collection was going for 50 gosh darn
Well,
dollars.
that's right. You pay $50 to play Sonic R. And
Like, remember the back? Like, compare. Gosh, this is such a sidebar, but I like this, so I don't care. So if you think about the Sonic Mega Collection, the
Mhm.
first one, you look at the back of the box and it's like, wow, like Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic Knuckles. Oh yeah, like this is my jam. This is like I'm gonna be playing this for several weeks, just like nailing these stages and playing it over and over because these games are great.
Mhm.
It's got the comics in there you can scroll through. Like, man, this is a sweet collection. Look at the back of the Gems collection box. And one of the featured games is Sonic R. Think about that.
Sonic the Fighters.
Like, there are three tentpole games for that collection were Sonic CD, a debatable but I think bad Sonic game.
I agree.
Sonic the Fighters, a bad Sonic. A bad Virtua Fighter with really crappy characters. Sonic R, which is a delightful little thing.
It's a bad racing game that I really like.
Yes, it's a bad game that we all from that era collectively love, but not because it's good.
No, it's just a fun childhood memory.
It's a fun jaunt, and we love that soundtrack.
Sonic CD, the whole reason to buy that game was because Sonic CD was only available on the Sega CD until that point.
Correct. This was a time before digital distribution, so it
So
was.
it led to a rumor that Sonic CD was the hidden best Sonic game because no one really had played it.
Hmm.
And then when people started playing it, they still lied to themselves and said it was the best one.
Right, we couldn't refute it. It's like Final Fantasy 3.
Like,
Like we
yeah,
never played Final Fantasy 3, so we don't know how cool it is.
right.
It's
And
not that
like,
cool.
you saw Sonic run, he did that figure eight run. It looked really cool.
That is still a pretty cool run.
It is. But when you try to play Sonic CD in modern times, it
It's
exposes
rough. That
itself.
level
It's
design is
level
rough.
design, the all levels all look the same.
Oh,
They
speaking
they
of
yeah.
speaking of ultra sidebar here.
Hmm.
Apparently the superior Android versions of Sonic 1 and 2 that have all the extra content have now been exported and dumped on PC.
Really?
Mhm.
That's great. I hope it
Yeah.
comes to Switch someday.
Yeah, well, I don't think they've been officially
Well,
released.
I didn't figure, but
But I think that it has happened. So
well, I
if you
could
want to
finally
play
play
those
them.
without playing them on your phone,
That's great.
yeah,
I've been meaning to play Hidden Palace soon.
yeah, exactly. So long story short, Mario Galaxy is real good.
Yeah.
Anyways, the other game I wanted to talk about is Hitman, which is the Hitman, not Hitman from way back, but Hitman from 2016. I would say it's a reboot of some kind. I think I don't really know much about the Hitman lore,
Uh,
but
Given that Hitman 3 just came out, I think people probably could have guessed you were talking about the modern one.
listen, it's important. And I also should know it's not Hitman 3 because I have not played any of these. So I saw that the first and second one were on sale a few weeks ago
Hmm?
on various retailers, and so I picked up some Steam keys for Hitman 1 from 2016, and will admit that part of the reason I bought it was I thought it would be a fun game to tool around with on a stream, and I just set up a PC, and so I thought, what better way to try and figure that out than with Hitman? And for what feels like the first time in my life, I was very right on all fronts because that game is a very fun game to stream to a very select audience. It is uniquely performative, I would say, because that game is designed in such a way that it really encourages you to experiment and explore. And it's really fun to do that when you have people in the chat egging you on to do certain things. And I have, just really enjoyed it. If I had to compare it to anything that we have played, because we're not Hitman people, and actually you haven't played this, so it reminds me of something I've played, and maybe someone in the audience has too. The first Assassin's Creed.
I'm not.
Yeah, you've not played it. Of
No.
course, very controversial, divisive game. That game was built around assassinations, which is weird because none of the rest of those games are. But the first one was, and what happened is you do all these really repetitive side quests for like an hour. You'd go to a
Hmm.
new area, do some side quests, you know, tail a guy, deliver a carrying pigeon or something, and then eventually you'd be like, okay, you've unlocked the assassination, and then the assassination, which was the best part of the game, is what kept you in it, would be these really nicely contained little moments where you'd have to wait for just the right time to pounce.
Hmm.
And it was pretty cool, and the series went in a very different direction after that. And so Hitman is like that, except for they cut out all of the frivolous side questing. You don't deliver carrying pigeons or anything like that. Carrier pigeons, rather. You don't deliver those. You don't tail people to pick up letters or whatever dumb things you used to do in Assassin's Creed. You just are dropped into what is basically the assassination scenario. You're dropped into a big, giant, sprawling area, and you are given a little bit of information, a little bit of backstory on who you're trying to get, and like what are some like what's going on in the scene, and then it just kind of drops you and says, "All right, now figure it out." And I was pretty intimidated when I would watch. I used to watch a lot of Giant Bomb streams of this game, which is what made me interested to begin with. And I would look and say, "Okay, this is fun to watch, but playing this would be, I think, maybe a little overwhelming." And I think at first it feels that way, but then there's some tools that the game gives you that make it a lot more approachable. Like you can, as you explore the area, you'll encounter different pieces of intel, or you'll notice different things, and it'll add it to a list in your dossier, and then you can select those things and like track them individually. So like for example, last night I was playing the first major mission, which is a fashion show, and I really wanted to disguise myself as this male model named Helmut Kruger.
Hmm.
And so I found him, and I was like, how do I get to him? How do I get to him? And then eventually I was like, wait a minute. So I looked at my menu, and I noticed that I could select to track him specifically, and it, it gave me some waypoints to look for, and it doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but it does put you in, it puts you in a place where you can fairly assess the situation and think about what to do from there.
See.
And I think that's great. It makes it really approachable, but I think the strength of the game is that the way that the levels are designed is that they're like a basically like a big stupid playground of murder, a big murder playground. And there are so many little odds and ends that you can find in each level, and so many possibilities within each of those that you find, that you could just spend hours walking around the same area going, okay, what about this? Like last night I was playing and I saw these winches, and I was thinking about Uncharted 4 and how much I hate winches.
Yes.
But then I thought, what if I pull these winches? And when I pulled them, the chandeliers dropped. So for a moment, I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if I tried to assassinate the target by dropping a chandelier on him? And I did, and it was fun. Now I failed,
Right.
because that's a horribly not stealthy way to do it, but it
Not
sure
at
was a
all.
lot of fun to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then I found other things, and I do have my standbys. You'll be happy to know that last night my first kill was with the swirly again.
Nice.
The rat poison to swirly proved to be effective.
It is a good combo.
It is a very effective combo. My other kill was total nonsense. I activated a very fun little scene, but I was too afraid to act on it until it was too late. But then, because I was just impatient, I was like, oh, fine, forget it. And I just threw my scissors at the target's guard, ran up to the guard and knocked him out, started to run out of the building to try and escape. And then I realized that when you knock someone out, they're not dead. So I was like, oh, crap, I'm going to run away, and then he's going to wake up, and it's going to be all for nothing. And so then I snuck back into the building, but the building was going on lockdown. And so the sirens were going off. And so anybody in there was suspicious. And I was sneaking around every corner, and I was like, where is this guy? So I used my detective vision and saw that the guy I knocked out was still hunched over on the floor, knocked out, thankfully.
Yeah.
And there was nobody around him. So I ran back to that room where he was hunched over. I really quickly went in, snapped his neck, turned around, almost like, like you're on a trip or something and you just like forgot something in the house and you have to go back in and get it. So I went back in, snapped his neck, walked back out, and escaped. And, it was just a lot of fun. It was a murder playground, and I thought the way that I deduced my way out of it was poor. I got a 0 score for my completion. But it was a lot of fun. It was a very slapstick uh, adventure, and I just really had a great time with it.
It seems like the sort of game where if you're watching someone play for the first time, you're not going to get two experiences that are exactly the same.
Right. Yeah, and that's really what's cool, and it's I kind of wish so. I don't know if you remember this, but this first one was released episodically. They did not release it all at once. So it was
I
like
did
every
remember that.
month they would drop like or not every 2 months or something, they drop a new stage. And I think back then I just kind of didn't get that totally. I thought, oh, I guess. I mean, it just wasn't how I played games. It didn't make sense to me. But now playing it, it makes total sense because after I finished that stage last night, when I was going to bed, I thought, maybe I should go back and, there were all these other options I could pursue. Maybe I should try this, or maybe I should see what happens if I activate this thing, or, there's so many potential things, and it's so fun to explore those potential things that, it's just it makes for a very unique experience, and one that I've definitely enjoyed touching in with the past 2 weeks.
I'm glad that you've discovered your fondness for Hitman.
Yeah, it also reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 5. Kind of
Oh,
similar reasons I really enjoyed that was the freedom with which it provides you to play with the game systems, and it's usually
the
very
Rocket Hand.
rewarding. Yes, exactly, exactly. So that's obviously pretty old game. So two pretty old games, honestly. So nothing really new or breaking on those fronts, but I think both are excellent in very different ways. So what about you? You been hitting him in lately?
Yeah, all the time. So, for those wondering from last week, I did not pick up Dot Hack GU Volume 4. I just let
Oh,
that 2 hour little side story go away.
great, the great rumor. I really enjoyed your commentary on it on Twitter. That
Yeah.
most of the problems can be solved with people just stopping playing the game,
Yeah.
which is a good point I never thought about.
Yeah, it's really obnoxious. I'm just like, because there's people getting bullied. It's like, just log off, man. It's just not play a different game.
Well, getting into comas or dying from
Well,
the game.
yeah. Well,
I mean,
but I went into all these specific issues last week, so I will not
no,
go into them more.
that's fair.
Because, yeah. Because I've already mentioned how someone got partial paralysis and still kept playing, which is unbelievable to me. But so after that, I ended up playing Devil May Cry 5, which is, a lot of fun. I really enjoy how, as your combos get more stylish, the music gets, more intense. Like the theme when Nero hits S rank, it really kicks in. And you're like, oh, I'm really feeling it.
Are you
Really
playing
jive with
this
the combat.
again because of the enhanced version?
Yeah,
Okay.
when I got my PS5, I got the enhanced version.
Okay.
It's been sitting on there and hadn't played it yet, and
I gotcha.
I finished that fairly quickly. I played a little bit as Virgil, which is one of the new special edition features,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of it's pretty fun. But what they do in that mode is they give you a new opening cutscene, and then they may have you play the entire rest of the like ordinary game as Virgil, and then a new ending cutscene. I assume.
Yeah. Did you notice, did it feel pretty enhanced? Like, did you notice much of a difference? I thought that game was already pretty slick, to be honest.
To be honest, I didn't really notice much. I
Okay.
mean, there was some haptic stuff with
Okay.
the,
Well,
but
you don't like that.
I could go without it. I mean, I didn't have ray tracing on
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
guess the only way like to do that is put it 30 frames per second, which I do not feel works for
Yeah,
Devil
that's
May
not a
Cry.
game. Yeah, that's not a
Yeah.
game you want at 30,
So,
probably.
or at 1080p
Yeah.
with ray tracing. I was like, well, I got
Yeah.
this fancy TV. Got to play 4K, so
I'll say I played it on the 1S like a year ago, and I mean I thought it looked spectacular on that and ran pretty well. So I was a little surprised that they were selling an entirely separate version
well, it's
for
not
new
full
consoles.
price.
It's not
Um,
I figured probably 40, 30.
yeah, 40.
Yeah.
No, but it's really fun. Highly replayable. But what I've been playing mostly this week is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. The thing about this game is that the less you know about it going in, the better.
Uh-huh. I know very little.
You know how most games have like one little plot twist, or it's like, all right, this is the big one. Like this is um,
Like,
like you're really Darth Revan or whatever.
oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Ghost Trick did this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this one's got like one every 20 minutes. It feels like because
Okay.
like every time I'm like, this game can't get any crazier. Something more insane happens, or
Yeah.
and the way like this tells a story is very like non-linear. Like you're telling
Mhm.
a story through 13 different protagonists,
Mhm.
and they take place at different times and in different eras, and they all interconnect, and it's all leading up to like this final mega battle. But it's telling you like how they all got there,
Mhm.
and you're slowly discovering the truth of the world, and I don't know, it's really interesting. It's like a story that would be difficult to tell in a not video game or something like
Right.
that. So
That's nice. I do like it when games tell stories that are, you know, made for games and not for movies.
yeah,
So
I mean, I could
that's nice.
see this might could work in a television show, but a
Sure.
movie it would be incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I heard it clicked. It ticks a few of my personal boxes. I won't say too much because, like you said, the less you know, the better. The little I know, I was like, oh boy.
Even what you think you probably aren't quite full on
True.
because what
Yeah.
you've told me, that changes also.
So tell me this, because here's what it seems like to me from the outside in. I've heard it called a visual novel in
No,
some
I don't think
regards, but I
that's
don't think it is
accurate.
because I've heard there's gameplay to some
There is
extent.
gameplay. It's actually more of an adventure game. Like it reminds me of
Yeah.
a way, way, way toned down Monkey Island. it's basically
Yeah.
like finding the right dialogue options. Like there's no
Okay.
like puzzle solving
So a
or anything.
Telltale adventure game.
Yeah, yeah, that's
A
more accurate.
later, late stage Telltale
Yes,
adventure.
but it's a lot of dialogue and like that's half of the gameplay. The other half is a tactical based RPG. It's I don't know if you've heard of this series, but I played Soccer Wars on the Wii, and
I've heard of it.
that's kind of like it was kind of like that. It was
Okay.
like a lot of story followed by turn-based tactical battles. But you can choose which mode you play. You can either play the story one, or you switch between the two to get the full story. But the 13 characters are all leading up to the gameplay segment. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, the gameplay part has me a little less interested, but I would. This is everything I've heard about it makes it sound like something that I would actually really, really like.
the gameplay is pretty easy actually.
Okay.
I've I have 2 levels left, I think,
Hmm.
and I've S ranked everything, and I'm not like this perfect RTS player or anything, so
Hmm.
I it's pretty easy.
I was gonna say I think the art looks beautiful from what
Oh
I've
well,
seen.
that's what made me interested in this game because this is not something I've done since like Persona 3. I don't think where I don't really buy a game that I just haven't heard much of. Like
Hmm.
I all I knew about this going in was that the art looked nice and that it quote unquote goes places, which it does. I can confirm. But I know that I really like Vanillaware, which is what attracted me to it. They're the art like they're the people that made Odin Sphere
Yeah, and
and
Dragon's Crown.
Dragon's Crown
Yeah.
and Muramasa for the Vita.
Oh yeah. And
Um,
well, that was a Wii game.
oh yes, but I got a
And
Vita port.
it did. Yeah.
I mean, all 13 characters, they're all interesting and they all tell good, like interesting stories. Like there's not many games like this, and if I had
Yeah.
to redo my 2020 Game of the Year list, I'm pretty sure it'd be number one easily.
Well, that's promising.
Yeah,
Um, I
like this is the slam dunk Game of the Year I did not have until just now. So
yeah, I hope it eventually creeps its way off of the PlayStation ecosystem, perhaps onto PC. I think that'd be a great place for it,
well, I would bet
since it's a visual novel. But we'll see.
again, a visual novel is, I mean, maybe a little, but
Yeah, you're right. It's not a visual novel, but it is an adventure game as well,
it
which
is heavily
is very
story
much
based.
a PC
Yeah,
standby and
very much PC.
my preferred way to play an adventure game.
You're not gonna be solving puzzles.
Yeah, no, I like both types of adventure games pretty well, but that's fine. If it's gonna be that crazy of a story, I think I'd rather the game get out of my way and let me experience that story.
I cannot recommend it enough. I think I actually, if a publication has someone on staff that has played this game and it is not in their top games of the year, actually look down on that publication.
I I have seen a lot of people actually with that kind of sentiment. It was one of those games that people like me were kind of bristling because Ori was left off of a lot of game of the year stuff.
Yeah.
But I saw a lot of people who just kept bringing up this game over and over and over, and I didn't. It's like, what is like? I had no idea what it was, and the more I've heard, it's been like, okay, all right, I think they might be onto something.
Well, I was flipping through Game Informer and like, are you telling me Immortals: Phoenix Rising is better than this? I don't think so.
Well, these games. This is one of those niche games that I would say falls outside of the purview of most people who are paid to write about video games.
I suppose,
Much
but
much in the same way that like every JRPG before Final Fantasy VII Remake basically slipped through the cracks. And
uh,
Yakuza I guess
yeah,
has kind of emerged a little bit.
it has become the
But they
champion.
don't usually have people on staff who play Japanese RPGs or strange anime adventure games.
Well, it's just weird because like I look at this game, like a game with a story that like its medium serves it really well. Like being a
Hmm.
video game makes it what it is. And I look at like everyone praising Last of Us 2, which is
Right.
just like you go in a line and you hear a story, which is fine. That
Yeah,
there's
it's
nothing
fine.
wrong with that, but it is a way to tell a story that
Yeah.
can be done
I think it's
anywhere.
less interesting.
Yeah.
Like for me, for our tastes, and I think Setzer and I have said this many times, a game like Hades where there is a story and it is a decent story, but it's very light in its touches and it uses the gameplay to its advantage. So like the story feels like it melds with the gameplay. That's our preferred style compared to, walk forward experience story. And this game seems like it does take advantage of being a video game.
Yes, which is always nice.
Yes.
This is a medium that is different from movies and television,
Yes, it is.
and it would be nice if more companies or storytellers tried to tell stories that took advantage of that.
Yeah. More
So
papers, please. Less Last
yes,
of Us.
there are more games like Disco Elysium.
Well, I believe that's coming to many, many platforms very
Yes,
soon.
and when it does, I will give it another chance. I feel like I was a little unnecessarily harsh. I think I was in a bad mood when I played it.
Well,
Time to
I
go
think
back.
you had heard all the praise and maybe felt the urge to get it in so you could evaluate it
I could have an
in
opinion
terms of
on
the
it,
year. Yeah.
and then I was just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I tried to
Kind of like when you played Undertale the first time and you're like,
yeah,
"Ah, I don't know about this."
yeah.
And
So a little moral of the story: don't try to rush things just to get an opinion on them.
yes,
Go to them at your own
oh,
pace.
I learned this lesson over and over because I do the same thing.
I learned that last year when I tried to play Ace Combat at the very end of the year to
yeah,
see if it was one of my best games of 2019, and I was like, I don't really feel like playing this.
yeah.
And then I stopped playing, and I haven't gone back to it.
I've learned it so many times over the past generation, given that Metal Gear Solid 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are two of my favorite games, and both of them at one point I said I hated.
Yeah, you came
So
back around big time,
I
especially
did.
on Red Dead.
I love both of those games. Those are both great.
Well, I think with all that out of the way, I think we can get to news. So, Cheston, what's in the news this week?
Ah, I have taken over.
Yes,
I'm at the news desk now, and I'm knocking over all of Setzer's stuff,
that's right.
putting my dirty shoes on his desk, leaving coffee rings on his nice wooden table. I was going to start selfishly because this is my corner now, but I'm going to be realistic and I'm going to start with things that actually really matter and then I'll get selfish and self indulgent.
Okay.
So let's talk about Microsoft and their ongoing family circus. They had a bit of a interesting, I would say interesting week, but more like an interesting 24 hours. I want to say it was Friday was when they had a little bit of a come undone, and it all started I think the day before actually. There was some rumors and some leaks that pointed to a increase in the price of Xbox Live.
Yes.
And this is Xbox Live without Game Pass, just plain old Xbox Live, just pay to play online, which is obviously silly. And it was a pretty dramatic price increase. People were finding pictures of cards that said $60 for 6 months, which which is what we call an 100% increase.
Yeah, that's a double
And
price increase.
and so people were reasonably, I think, a little alarmed. And then it was made official shortly afterwards. And then people were really alarmed because, you know, if you don't have Game Pass and say you want to play anything online, including some of the most popular games that are free to play, like Fortnite or other such free to play games, you have to pay for that membership. So you would be looking at $120 for an entire year
That's a lot.
just to play online. And it festered for a few hours. People, I think, were getting pretty upset. They were pretty frustrated, pretty confused. You know, it was something that I myself selfishly didn't really understand too well because I have Game Pass, and if I didn't, I wouldn't pay for Xbox Live. So these are things I really couldn't relate to myself.
Right.
But people that did care about this were very concerned, and they brought up reasonable situations like, say you're a youngling who plays Fortnite, and suddenly you're having to try and wrangle together $120 every year just to play this game that on every other platform, including Nintendo Switch, you can play for absolutely free.
Right.
And so Microsoft listened, as they say they do, and they reneged, and they did it so hard, they reverted so hard that they also undid their policy on free-to-play games. And so they undid the price increase. It's back to $60 for 6 months. And now you can play free-to-play games for free without Xbox Live, which has reversed a long-standing issue with Xbox Live kind of suddenly.
Well, about time.
So yeah, it's an interesting 24-hour period for Microsoft that I think probably did some short-term and possibly some long-term damage to be seen. So how did you feel about this whole saga?
Well, first of all, I don't know about long-term damage. They fixed it so
I
quickly
said
that
to be seen. So,
to be seen.
I when I say long term in this case, it would be like, our people are going to have a different feeling about the current era of Microsoft. Like, at any moment they could
They could
flip a
flip the
switch
switch.
and
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
Okay, I see what you mean. I felt that this was their subtle way of saying we want to phase out Xbox Live.
You think it was subtle?
No, no, but they wanted to say it without really saying it.
Right.
Like
I'm with you.
we want people to just buy Game Pass Ultimate. We don't want you to buy the standalone. So
Right.
if you want to buy standalone, we're gonna make you pay really high for it.
Mhm.
And they greatly overestimated how many people want to play Game Pass.
Yeah,
So,
apparently, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm sure they were looking at it from a business perspective and I was thinking the other day, their worst enemy in the world is not Sony or Nintendo. It's a kid who buys an Xbox just to play Call of Duty,
oh yeah,
and they get Xbox Live for relatively cheap, and they don't buy any new games, and they don't buy Game Pass, and they're not contributing to the ecosystem. They're just buying their Series S or 1S, their cheaper models, and playing their games, and not really chipping in. And so I thought it was an especially naked way of them trying to alleviate themselves of that
well that's
nemesis.
just wasn't gonna work.
No, and I think the greater discussion to have here is that these pay-to-play online schemes are all ripoffs,
They are.
regardless of price. Like $60 a year is still too much. $20 a year for the Switch is still too much. Like it it should be free.
Right.
And Microsoft opened the forbidden door many years ago. So I suppose it's not too surprising that they would be one of the first ones to try and really play with it. But they definitely got their hands swatted on this one.
Well, I'm surprised it wasn't Sony that tried to do that.
Well, they did their thing when they subtly, like, really nonchalantly made it mandatory for online play when they revealed the PS4. So they kind
Yes.
of already, they did that. I think they're a little sneakier about their shenanigans. Microsoft was being a little too,
A little too open.
yeah, a little too open
Gotta
for their
lie
own good.
about it.
Yeah, you got to be a little sneakier. I think at the very least, what they should have done if they wanted to try this was to imply some amount of added value because they were increasing
Yeah.
the price 100%, and it's not like they were increasing the amount of games with gold or anything.
No.
It was going to be the same service with the same perks for twice as much money as you paid
Well, I mean,
for seemingly no reason.
if they had said we're making it like Game Pass Lite, where you just get all first party games with games with gold or some sort
Mhm.
of thing, maybe I could understand it. But even
Mhm.
still, that's just too much.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me wonder if they'll maybe nudge Game Pass up a slight bit in the near future. Because some things I've read have hinted at the fact that they're trying to do this very inventive approach to running a video game business, and it's an expensive approach. And this was one of their ways to try and offset some of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it did a Netflix-esque jump to 20. I think at 15 it's an insane value. I think at 20 it's still a pretty good value, all things considered.
Well, I'm paid for 2 years, so they can
Right. Well,
increase it.
you wouldn't have to worry about it, but you know, I'm not sure that I would go in for 20, but I wouldn't. It's not because it's a bad value. It's because I don't always have time for Game Pass. I think it's a little funny that they were so naked, and I think this was a really odd, unforced error for a company that has been pretty good.
Ever since their big fiasco with backwards
Right.
compatibility,
Right.
been
They've been pretty good of late, so it's weird that they would flub like this so openly, but they did, and can only hope that they don't do this again in the future.
I would hope not.
Yeah, but if they do, it'll at least be funny for the rest of us. Well, this is a distressing topic, I think, and one that's gonna bring out my tinfoil hat if you'll allow it.
Sure.
And that is that Vicarious Visions, the beloved developer of many things over the years, but more recently, the highly successful Crash Bandicoot remasters and the also highly successful Tony Hawk remasters. They have been not bought, not shuttered, but rather absorbed into Blizzard
Yeah.
to support ongoing Blizzard projects.
Now, can you imagine being like behind a couple of like the most beloved games of the past couple of years, and like, oh, you're going to be forced to work on Overwatch now? Have fun.
So there's a few things. One, from given rumor, but it is Jason Schreier, so a probably credible rumor is that they have been for a while now working on a Diablo 2 remake,
Okay.
which would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, I would be into that as long as it didn't hew too close to Diablo 3, but that's neither here nor there. The other part of this is, I get what you're saying. Can you imagine doing all this and then like becoming just like a side studio, like becoming support after you've made two games that I think in both cases were top 10 sellers for their respective years. I think
Yes.
both. Maybe Tony Hawk was top 20, but I mean, they ranked pretty highly.
Well, and
Like,
Crash Bandicoot's in the PS Plus collection.
and the
Like
Crash
that's
Bandicoot game is immensely successful, like
yeah.
stupidly successful. That game is. So, that's a bummer. And so it made me think of, given that this is Activision, it made me think back to Infinity Ward. And we were talking before the show about Infinity Ward, and we were talking about when they released Modern Warfare, which was obviously a very successful game, and they were working on Modern Warfare 2, and the two main, I'll call them head honchos for lack of a technical term, two head honchos at Infinity Ward wanted money because their game was super successful, and they were
Right.
making a lot of money for Activision, so in their new contracts, they wanted to get paid. And they did. But Activision doesn't like paying people. So
No.
they looked for a way out, and eventually they found one, and they kicked those two out, and long story short, Star Wars The Fallen Order is a really cool game. But I can't help but think that that might have been what Activision was afraid of again, because this studio was one of their good hands for several years,
Right.
and only recently had their games started to become like just giant blockbuster sales. And I wouldn't be surprised if whoever's in charge of Vicarious Visions, when their next contract came up, thought, you know, we helmed this highly lauded Tony Hawk game. We revived Crash Bandicoot from the grave. So much so that another studio made a new game
Yeah.
after our remasters. So we want to get paid. And maybe Activision looked and said, okay, well, maybe we should, instead of getting ourselves into the situation we got into last time, which was a very messy public divorce, maybe we can just nudge them away to Blizzard, where any success they have will be attributed to the Blizzard brand rather
Yeah.
than Vicarious Visions.
That's possible.
Yeah, that's where I know it's very conspiracy tinfoil hat and
Well, I kind of
whatever.
buy it, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't be surprised because the only thing I can figure, because I mean, I can see maybe taking a few of those people to go over to Blizzard and help them make their remasters not suck, because obviously Warcraft Reforged was a disaster. So I can see why they might want to tap some of that talent, but to just, shutter it whole cloth makes me think that they think they got what they need from them, which is they saved Crash Bandicoot and Tony Hawk. They got what they needed, and if they want to continue with those series, Toys for Bob is right over there, and they do just good enough,
They do just good enough. That's for
right?
true. Yeah.
And they could easily give them the Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remaster, or maybe a new Tony Hawk, and it would probably be fine because it'd probably be using a lot of the tech that Vicarious Visions pioneered.
Well, it just sucks because like they do all this good work, and now they're this Blizzard. They're just
Right. Now
yeah.
they're with a company that, another part of the Schreier rumors was that a lot of the Blizzard that we know, of course, has been shown the door.
Yeah.
And like it's been like Activision has been actively seeking to sabotage for some reason.
You mean that thing that people said everyone was crazy for saying what happened is happening?
Right.
That's
You
crazy.
know, I don't want to pin everything that Blizzard does on Activision, but it's
But
hard not to
exactly.
draw the dots or connect the
Yeah,
dots on
for
that one.
sure.
So I think that's, I'm not, we've talked about the remasters. I was pretty high on them when I played them earlier this year. I've feigned a little. I just don't think the Tony Hawk games, I think that's not the kind of game for me anymore. But I recognize that what they did was impressive.
Yes.
They did a great job, and I don't like the Crash remasters, but I do think they were very competently put together.
They were.
And I think there's something to be said for bringing back a PS1 game and selling so well that, you revive a franchise that was dead.
Long
Deservedly
dead.
so.
Yeah.
Deservedly dead,
Yeah.
I would add. So that's a bummer. It's a pour one out for Vicarious Visions.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. Hard not to.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that the Diablo 2 remake will have more of their fingerprints than Blizzard's. That would be really cool because Diablo 2 is an amazing game. It does look like wet garbage, so it would be nice to play a version that doesn't. Maybe they can revive some other Blizzard properties too while they're at it. Maybe we can get something out of this, like maybe a new Lost Vikings, maybe StarCraft Ghost, like I don't know, Warcraft Adventures.
It is humorous though that they like went out of their way to say they will be working solely on Blizzard properties. like
Right, they wanted to make sure people knew.
like they will not be making the Tony Hawk game with Blizzard.
But at
Not
the
happen.
same time, don't be shocked if in 2 years a studio or Toys for Bob is working on a Tony Hawk game of some
Well,
kind.
I'm sure it'll be just as good as 1 and 2.
It will be okay.
Yes. That is Toys for Bob's motto. We make okay games.
Well, we're going to take one more stop here on the way to our destination. And we're going to take a little detour because I wasn't here last week to talk about Lucasfilm Games, which I hope one of you mentioned
We
was
did.
the name of LucasArts before it was LucasArts.
We did not mention that.
Okay, well, it's a shame. It means that really what we should be expecting to see out of this studio is a new Monkey Island.
Nope.
But in the meantime, but in the meantime, rumors have abounded that among their Indiana Jones project and their, you know, Star Wars open world project and whatever else they've got in the cooking in the pot, that a possible reimagining or a new Knights of the Old Republic could be in development.
Unsurprising.
It would be unsurprising, yes.
Ever since they announced this new initiative, I figured something like this would be coming. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is probably one of the most beloved Star Wars games ever, behind X-Wing, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it has the same. I would say it has a similar cult devotion. Though the X-wing cult is a little stranger, I think, than
they are a little stranger,
the
but
other cult.
it could certainly use a remake, I suppose. It's an old playing game, so
Yeah,
so
I don't want it.
I don't want it either. But it's not.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want new people to play it, it's probably easier to sell them on the remake than
Yes,
the old Xbox game.
you're correct. I mean, the old Xbox game, even though remakes are not remakes, but the ports they've released over the years still look pretty rough, and that kind of gameplay, which is basically using the same engine as Neverwinter Nights,
Yes.
not exactly modern Star Wars game material. I don't
No,
think.
it's not.
So even though I don't want this, I am with you. I wouldn't really be surprised. I think more interesting though, this Lucasfilm Games initiative seems to be pretty serious. So what would you, if you could have anything out of it?
Well, we did talk about this a little bit last week, but I would go for a platinum developed Star Wars game, a
All right.
a Luke Skywalker Revengeance sort of thing, or
Hmm.
whatever Jedi Revengeance.
We have a game for those people. It is called The Force Unleashed.
Well, yeah, no, well,
It's not platinum. It is
no,
very below. It's maybe the kind of platinum that made Legends of Korra, but not the kind of platinum that made Wonderful 101.
the other one I would think of as a Yoko Taro Star Wars game. This
God, that'd
get
be
weird with it.
amazing. All right. Okay. I think it is offensive that they're using the Lucasfilm Games name, given that
Hmm.
that was used in the past for such adventure games as Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. I would love to see more point and clicks with with the Lucasfilm properties, but I know that's not going to happen.
Nope.
I would love it if they would do kind of in the spirit of late stage Lucasfilm, early stage LucasArts, if they started to do their own IP with that prestigious backing.
Nope.
I know. I said wish list. I didn't say happening list.
Yeah.
But, something along the lines of, you know, Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, all these cool games. I don't know. There's something there,
There is.
but it's not going to happen ever. So I'm obviously just wasting my time. They'll probably just make a bunch of open world Star Wars trash and whatever that Indiana Jones game is going to be. I don't really understand that choice of developer at all, personally.
I don't either.
I think the only thing I can see is that they also made a game about Nazis. So I guess there's that. But
That's the one.
I think that's a
similarity.
really loose connection because I don't think Machine Games has made anything that isn't a first-person shooter. And let me tell you this: if they make a first-person Indiana Jones game, they are stupid. So well, God, I don't want to eat my words, but I think it's a bad idea, if nothing else.
For sure.
Because I mean, what you want to see his hat? You want to see Indiana Jones' iconic hat?
See him whip.
His whip? Oh, you get first-person whipping? That's stupid. That is ridiculous. I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this that I'm gonna stop talking about it, and instead, I'm gonna take you and the listeners to the zone of pure Nintendo.
And then doo-doo zone.
Oh, and there's no news here. There's nothing. It's quiet, and the people are restless, and they want a Nintendo Direct. They're really hoping that they might hear about one by now.
I'm starting to think Nintendo fans are a little unsatisfiable because I saw a post on Twitter
Oh,
that was
are you kidding?
like that was complaining about no new Zelda news. I'm like, man, Age of Calamity just came out in November.
I will tell you without fail, whenever I used to waste my time on the Reddits, not the Reddits, the Reddits.
Yes.
When I used to waste my time on the Reddits, and you'd watch a Nintendo Direct, and you'd watch it, thinking about the one especially where they announced Link's Awakening, which was just a bomb direct. It was like Link's Awakening, Mario Maker 2, probably something else, like all these cool things, and it was like, wow, what a great day to have a Switch. And I remember getting on my computer and going to www.reddit.com/r/Nintendo Switch, and then going to the Direct Mega thread. And almost without fail, every one of them was like, well, I guess if you like Zelda and you like Mario, then I guess this was a good Direct. But this didn't really have anything for me.
Why would you own a Switch if you weren't
And
into
every
that?
time I see that, I would just get so flummoxed. And I still bristle when I see that kind of logic. And it comes up. So I'm with you. I think there's nothing you can do that makes a Nintendo fan happy, because if you announce Breath of the Wild 2's coming next week, within 2 days someone will be going, yeah, but when's the next F-Zero?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, where's Chibi Robo? Where's Devil's Third?
No one's ever said that.
I said that. I'm always asking about Devil's Third.
Well, they may not have those, but you got Mario's 3D World.
Yeah, that's right. So we can talk about that, because I think you glossed over that last week, which is weird because it's probably the biggest thing that happened in the entire world last week. There's certainly nothing else. So, yeah, did you watch the trailers?
I did.
Yeah, what did you think of Bowser's Fury?
It looks interesting. It looks more like more content than they usually put on these extra modes.
It does.
If you compare that to like the Pikmin 3 Deluxe Edition stuff, it seems like a
Yes.
lot more substance.
Yes, I assumed it would actually. That's exactly what I thought it would be. I saw that they build it as plus Bowser's Fury, so you're supposed to think it's going to be big. But I was pretty resigned to the fact that it would just be like, I don't know, maybe a new world with like 6 new stages,
Which
which
would be
would have been
fine by
fine.
me. Yeah.
It would have been fine. But this seems pretty like a pretty bold departure.
Well, it's like an open world sort of thing.
Right. I think it'll be interesting to see, because 3D World is basically a 3D 2D Mario, but they've always made those like 2D Mario games. So this is like uses that play style, but with a 3D world, which is I think, an interesting concept.
Yes.
So I'm very curious. I think when I do get that game, that'll be what I jump into first.
Oh yeah, it seems like compelling new content, which you don't usually
Yeah,
get with
and I think
these.
it'll be nice because I think the main game I do like, but I felt like it was much stronger when you played with people. This one I don't think I will play with people. I don't think it would fare as well. So I think it'll be nice to have this as single player, and then you can do some four player online, provided it's not a buggy mess.
Well, certainly it would be better for one player because player two has to be Baby Bowser, and no one wants to
Yeah,
be
this
that.
sure is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's shameful.
I think you mean Bowser Jr.
Either way,
Yeah. No, it's
same.
not either way. It's this is the correct way to go about this.
Bowser's got many kids. The call one Bowser Jr. is unfair.
Well, isn't it?
I
There's an
believe
interview that Dan Reichert
I
got
believe
several years ago.
Miyamoto said that the Koopa kids are not Bowser's children.
Yes, and Bowser Jr. is, but
Yes,
nobody knows.
nobody knows who the mom is.
Yes, which
I
is a
was.
great thing for someone to say in an interview.
I've always felt that Bowser reproduces asexually. But
Like by budding,
yeah, he kind
like
of like
little
sheds his skin
sprouts.
and a little Bowser pops out of it.
I could see that, like the little mechanical Bowsers that he throws in Mario World.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. So are you saying that Bowser Jr. is a robot?
Yeah, I am saying that
Okay, I could get behind that. That explains. That would explain a lot of things.
because he's programmed to go after Princess Peach, so
That's true.
just
Yeah.
repeated.
So it's like Westworld.
Yeah, it's like Westworld.
And Bowser's just creating these characters whole cloth and sending them to do his bidding.
Mario lore. I mean, it's so complicated.
Oh, it's there's a lot going on there. I
If
mean,
Yoshi stomp on Koopa or whatever his last name is.
well, it's all a stage play, so it actually doesn't have
Oh,
really any
true.
lore of value. Of course, they never answered if like Super Mario RPG is a stage play too, but
So he's saying Charles Martinet is the real Mario, and he's just playing. He's just playing Mario the character. It's
I'm saying they should make an FMV Mario where you play as Charles Martinet
all
in a
right.
hat.
Now you're speaking my
That could look
language.
like Street Fighter the movie, the game.
Since you weren't here last week, I will ask you, since this falls under Nindudu coverage, do you have any expectations for Pokemon this year outside of Pokemon Snap?
I think Pokemon Snap looks real spiffy.
I do too, but it's the
Uh,
25th anniversary of Pokemon. So do you think there will be another big market game?
yeah, I think the Diamond and Pearl remakes are gonna happen.
Okay, see, my prediction was Let's Go Togepi and Let's Go Snubble.
I mean, I think I'd prefer that to be honest.
I think I would too, but
And that's not
I just really
totally a
like Let's Go
diss.
Pikachu.
Yeah, I did too. That's exactly what it is. I really like those, and I think that'd be a fun way to experience that region. No, I think Diamond and Pearl. I think
I
that's
think
gonna happen.
they will never remake Diamond and Pearl.
You think? You think that's where they draw the line?
They
Like,
draw the line. They're like, we are not remaking DS games, not yet.
I don't know. I don't. I'm not so sure. They remade Bowser's Inside Story, so they have no. They have
Yeah,
no
but they
issues.
remade it in quotes. Like it wasn't like a
Oh,
over the
you're
top remake.
correct. I don't. What? It's weird though because if you do a Diamond and Pearl remake, do you make it in the style of Sword and Shield? Because I don't know. That doesn't seem totally compatible to me. It
Well, it
seems like
doesn't.
you'd
They'd
have
have
to
to
do
go
a lot of
back.
work and like there'd be no wild area, unless there's
Right.
a wild cave, which God no.
Well, they can make a
But
Sword and Shield without a wild area. Just like
they
because that
could.
game did have routes.
I kind of.
They were short, but they
They're
were
straight
there.
lines.
True. But I don't know. Part of me thinks this is not going to happen. It's
I
a
mean, it's
divisive
rumored
Pokemon.
every year.
Rumored,
So,
well, but then again, like so was Ruby and Sapphire, and they eventually did make those.
hmm and I think those did pretty well. I think people really like those.
I've heard
Not me.
mixed. I've heard mixed.
I didn't like those very much, but
Not me. I
it's
love
because I like the
Misty.
classic. Uh, but Diamond and Pearl, I don't have that much reverence for, other than it being the first Pokemon where you could trade with people who had hacked really crazy creations.
And let's see. Do you think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year?
I'm fading on that. My
Okay.
confidence is waning a little bit. So
Okay.
but I'm still gonna say yes for now. I would say more likely is I think that uh, an Odyssey sequel will happen. I think is more likely.
Okay, so you're saying that Nintendo will have a Mario or Zelda this year. It'll be Odyssey 2.
Bold prediction. I
Yeah.
know. Well, I think they'll have multiple Mario things. I think they'll also have a follow up to Super Mario Party. I think we're due.
You know, it has been a little while.
It's 3 years,
Yeah, I think we're about due.
and those people were working on Clubhouse games, so they're freed up. And I can't imagine that a new Mario Party would take too much development time.
Well, you know, we don't have a big first-party Nintendo game on the horizon outside of Breath of the Wild 2, so
Well,
I'm
I don't know. Is Bravely Default? That's Square, isn't it?
Square
Okay, that's Square. So that's definitely not first party. Okay, let's see. Are you sure? Because
that we know
we got
about, other than
yeah,
Prime 4 and
Snap, 3D
well,
World.
Snap. Well, I mean, like fall for the fall.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we don't ever know about that until
No, but
usually.
you know, we knew about Animal Crossing well before it came out. So
Yes, and I think they
usually for
regretted
the
that very sincerely.
usually for the bigger names, you know, games you know about them for a little bit.
My expectation is that we won't know anything about anything until about a month or two before those things are released. I think they learned last year that a lot of people are like, oh, they have to do this or they have to do that, but yeah, I think they learned last year they actually don't.
I think Prime 4 has made them a little less willing
Right?
to reveal
It
things.
should make everybody skeptical. Like you shouldn't do what they did. That was a
Same with
bad idea.
Bayonetta 3, which has
Right?
been
Yeah, they
completely.
shouldn't have. They should have never put that out there. So I don't think they're gonna do that very much anymore. I think they'll probably just do Twitter drops, and I mean I don't love that, but I don't hate it. I mean it's
Well,
fine.
part of me likes the showmanship of a
Yeah, but
direct.
sometimes it's fun to have the nice little surprise. Like
Yeah.
when 3D World just they're just like, hey, we're gonna drop a trailer, and so then that day I had a trailer, and then the next day they had another trailer, and the day after that they had a Pokemon Snap trailer. And it was like, okay, that was kind of fun.
Or when they revealed the Mario 3D collection like 2 weeks before it came out.
Hmm. Right, exactly, which was great. Yeah. Are you? What do you think about Snap? It wasn't here last week.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I haven't really like watched trailers for it because I kind of want to go in,
It doesn't show
unexpected.
much. It just shows that. I mean, I think it looks nicer than Sword and Shield overall.
Do you know if it's on rails like the
It
original one
it,
was?
it appears to be on rails.
Good.
He's in the little vehicle and
I was
stuff.
worried they would make it free roaming.
Oh no, I think it is on rails. I think it is similar. They didn't show too much. They showed I think you feeding an apple to something. So I don't think pester balls are coming back. I'll tell you that
Oh
much.
well, darn.
I don't
My
think pester balls are 2020 or 2021
You
approved.
can't gas your Pokemon.
You can't use noxious gas to make your Pokemon do things.
I think that it'll be really interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really untapped genre. So there's not like a lot they can draw from.
yeah, this is something that I've been wanting for quite a long time,
Yeah.
and I felt that the Wii U was the perfect fit for it.
Yep.
And I remember they came out and said we have no interest.
Mhm.
So eventually, I guess enough people whined that they're like, all right, we got an interest. I mean, kind of what I always wanted was just new Pokemon to take photos of. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
really all
well.
I need. So
They said 200 something ones
um,
that'll
I
be in
hope
there.
I hope it's not like all the Pokemon from the first one and then a few new ones. I hope it's like we have a couple of the ones from the first one, but it's
Yeah,
mostly stuff you can
yeah, that would
photograph.
be a real bummer if it was because the last one they only had 150 to pull from. So
And I think there was only like 60 or 70 in that game.
right, so that would be a huge letdown.
You should from the first one you should only bring over like Pikachu because you have to,
Yeah,
and
Ditto, bring over some starters.
Ditto should be brought over, the starters, and Mew, and that's it.
Yeah, for old time's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so. I think what I really want, and I'm sure it will have. I think the thing that I most care about is just like the cool thing about those games that people gloss over because they think about it like, oh, it's nice to take pictures, but the real appeal of that game was doing those stages over and over and figuring out all the tricks,
yes.
right? To get like, how do I get Zapdos to emerge from that egg? How do I get Pikachu to ride the surfboard? How do I get, Eevee to ride the Chansey? Like, there's all these fun little bonuses, and I realize now that two of those three involved one riding another. And I know it was more creative than that, but it's still a thing. But those are really fun, right? Knocking the Charmeleon into the lava to turn
Right.
into a Charizard.
Or hitting the Magikarp and making it mad and making it evolve in the Gyarados, and it's fun stuff. Like if you can't beat that game in 2 hours, you're doing it wrong because the game's about replayability.
Right.
So
It's like
yeah,
Hitman. You're going back. You're playing the same stages over and over and over and over, and then eventually you find things you just didn't find before. And the pictures are nice. I mean, the picture part is cool, but it's just to me that was more of like a that was a it's the same way that you have like chips as a vehicle for dip. The
yeah,
pictures were a vehicle for these fun little puzzles, right?
yes.
And also a fun way to like see these creatures in different environments. And I think that will also be cool because that's one thing that like Sword and Shield I don't think did very well. Was like the wild area teased like seeing like all these creatures in their natural habitat, but it's kind of not. And this I think will be much more like that.
It was implemented kind of poorly too, where like it would be like you step in one direction, it's raining, and then you step back in the other way, it's not
Right.
raining anymore.
That's not which isn't very interesting. I think this will be more what I'm looking for. I think. I mean, they didn't show much outside of like a 2-minute trailer, and I think that's probably all we'll see. But I did put in my reservation on Amazon, so I'm already bought in.
I fully expect a comfortable game
Yeah,
that like lasts a couple hours and
yeah.
just you're chill.
That's not much more. I know people are gonna be like, oh, $60, but I don't know. For
Well,
me,
I'm
it's
looking forward to people bitching about how long the game is
yeah.
because yeah, so
I don't. It's not how I look at things, but it's been 20 years since the
yeah,
last one,
about time.
and the last one was of a very high quality. It was well made, so if this one is of a similar high quality or a higher quality, one would hope, then I think it'll be well worth it. I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully this leads to more Pokemon spin-offs getting sequels.
Uh,
Pokemon Conquest 2, baby.
Ranger. Oh yes, I know Conquest 2. Ah, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times.
That's right. So,
Only person in the world who actually knows what that is.
yeah, I know, but one day.
Well, for your troubles, you get a new Detective Pikachu. How about that?
I did not play the original.
Well, you'll get a new
So
one.
good. Release it on the Switch.
I think they are releasing it on the Switch. The
Oh, good.
original.
Good.
I think they said like 2 years ago they were doing that, and they've been quiet.
Well, then it's not happening.
I don't think. I think it will.
It's in the Metroid Prime 4 closet.
They don't. Game Freak does not leave money on the table very
They
often.
don't. They they very lazily scrap together games and have people defend them for wasting one of the most expensive IPs in the world. But you're not allowed to say that.
ah, I feel like people are willing to not as willing to give them a pass as they used to be.
I don't
I'm
know.
not really. I don't know. I'm not as invested in it as
No.
others, so I'm fine. I'm fine with their half-hearted efforts.
Yeah, I mean, Sword and Shield was fun for what it was.
Yeah, it was all right. It was not perfect.
It was a game.
Could have been a lot better in someone else's hands, but
Could have been a lot
whatever.
worse.
Indeed, it could have. They could really do some damage with that one with microtransactions
Oh, for
if they
sure.
wanted. So
It could ruin a whole generation of children
they could, and
slash
they
man children.
exactly yes. We've already been ruined enough.
I guess that'll do it for us this week. Reach out on Twitter at alltodaypod or Gmail alltodaypodcast@gmail.com. This is Derek.
And Cheston,
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
goodbye.